Hello everyone, I'm back at it again today, Mystery taking on the smoke grenade, because just because I'm playing PoE like a crazed exile doesn't mean I can't still opine on everything Darktide related. And the smoke grenade I think is one that's very popular with people. I don't imagine I'll get a whole lot of defenders in the comments saying, oh no, this thing's actually really good, you're just overlooking its upsides, etc. So I think most of this time is going to be spent tearing down what's wrong with the smoke grenade. A lot of people, I still see some people using it, but less and less by each passing day, especially mostly because of its bad placement in the tree, I think, because people want survivalists, so they just take frag grenade or crack grenades for newer players. It seems to be a favorite. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started talking about why this thing doesn't work in the game as designed. And if you could, like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. We're nearly at 10,000, guys. 10,000 for the year, and year ends is totally within our grasp. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, we got to address the problems. When I say number one up here, not reliable at its job, what I mean by that is enemies act so unpredictably when this thing is on the battlefield. You have gunners that will sometimes move to get around line of sight so they can shoot you. Sometimes they'll stay where they are and continue shooting in one spot, and sometimes they'll just glitch out and just stand there for a while. That happens to snipers sometimes. So one of the most important things about this game is learning enemy AI behaviors and anticipating how they're going to behave in any given situation. And the fact that this thing, you throw it out there and it's supposed to block enemy line of sight and force them to reposition or come into melee for an engagement, and they just seem to randomly choose what they want to do from there. It really complicates things. And you'd think that like this thing would be designed so that when the smoke is up, gunners just are like, well, I don't know if I'm shooting at foe or friend in there. I better just stop shooting and get another angle or wait for the smoke to go away. That would be the preferable outcome, but right now, they might just continue tracking you through the smoke for some amount of time. It's completely random, and you can get absolutely surprised by gunfire coming through this thing when otherwise you'd expect not to. Okay, the second big problem is that this has no effect on melee enemies. Melee enemies are already intending to close the gap to you and melee you. So, throwing this thing down when there's a pack of crushers or something coming at you, it does absolutely nothing. The crushers are still pathing to you. They're still going to land their melee attacks in you. It doesn't do anything like slowing them or lowering the accuracy or anything like that. It simply does nothing if you are dealing with a melee only engagement. And this is a thing that a lot of people thought that maybe this will be okay, especially after the gunner buffs and in Havoc, where gunners are very deadly. But you know what else is also deadly is like 10 crushers. And having shredder grenades, which can knock crushers down and put a bunch of bleed damage on them, versus having these things, which can do nothing to them, is a really stark contrast. And that brings the other really stark contrast with the best grenade in the game, which is the veteran shredder grenade. They have the same charges as these horrible smoke grenades, which is the worst grenade in the game. I don't know who designed that, thinking that the impact of these shredder bleed grenades would be the exact same as having 3 smoke grenades. But yeah, if you choose this, thank God you're veteran and you can regenerate free grenades, because if you are taking grenades from your team to refill 3 charges of smoke grenades, you are griefing. You're actually legitimately griefing. It's like one of the few ways you could grief in this game other than like stealing all the ammo and shooting barrels to explode and damage your teammates. So yeah, if you're using smoke grenade, do not pick up charges because they aren't contributing to anything really. Number 4, unpredictable termination is what I'm going to try to say there. So the smoke grenade, you're kind of covered behind it, like you have concealment from enemies at range, so they will most times not shoot at you. Remember, it's not reliable at that, but most times they won't be shooting at you, and you'll be okay to fight in it. But when its duration expires, it just expires instantly, and you're left out there standing with your dick in your hand, and you get shot to death in like the next 1 second. So there needs to be something that indicates that, okay, you either need to throw down another smoke grenade or get cover from the direction you know those gunners are in, because the smoke, obscuring effect is about to go away. And right now, it just like rips back the shower curtain, and you're standing there with your dick and balls out, and you get killed. Number 5, it hinders your allies. Allies have eyes too, and they need to be able to see to shoot the gunners that are going to ultimately be a threat. The goal in the game is to kill all of the enemies and make it through the level by doing that. If you can't see to shoot the gunners that are shooting at you, you're gonna have a big problem. And this just completely makes picking any long-range targets out of the question. You could hear a trapper that's coming from the direction through behind the smoke and have no way to pick him until she is well within the range where she can launch a trap on you. So it just is a big hindrance to allies. It's, again, another great way to grief your teams by throwing down a bunch of smoke that obscures their vision of longer range targets. Number 6, bad placement in the talent tree. Let me just go ahead and pull up the vet talent tree. Darktide. There it is. Okay. So we got veteran. All right. So our lovely smoke grenade resides right here. And, the best aura in the game is survivalist, right? This, or maybe the 10% CDR on Psyker are the best in the game. This is actually probably the best, honestly. That's just free ammo for everybody. But this is 5% movement speed. Not the worst thing in the world, but agile engagement and serrated blade are pretty much nothing. And smoke grenades are placed over these bad choices here, right? So there's no reason to take it. And if you're taking it, you are positioning yourself away from taking the best ultimate ability in the game. Like, there is a world in which I could justify going here and then straight down the middle and just going through crack grenades and grabbing maybe grenade tinkerer for crack grenades, because you're saving 1 point over going out here for shredder. I could see someone doing that, but spending an extra point to pick up smoke grenades, you must be out of your damn mind. So that is what I mean about bad placement. There's probably not too much we're going to be able to do about that. In fact, that's the thing, spoilers, that I'm not going to change. I'm just going to try to make this thing viable in its own right so that it's not, so bad that you would never pick it. And then 7, it's got stiff competition. Really not from the crack grenade. The crack grenade is one that I'll like to look at in the future, because I think the crack grenade is really underwhelming for what it offers, especially compared to the shredder frag grenade. So the shredder is the king on the mountain right now, and it costs, this is the best ultimate. Everyone's choosing this ultimate, right? So it costs 1 extra point to go over here and 1 extra point to go over here. So that's a 1-to-1 comparison. You have a way better grenade, the best grenade in the game, and the best aura in the game, or the worst grenade in the game and a pretty bad aura. So the competition is so stiff. You need something that really makes this thing stand out. And then finally, it has 0 killing potential. This doesn't do anything to make it easier to kill enemies. It doesn't, in fact, it might do the opposite. If you can't see the enemies to shoot them, it doesn't soften enemies up for you. It doesn't damage them over time. It doesn't make them, it's kind of like imagine like the stun storm grenade, except for the stun storm grenade, you can use that to reliably get off a res on someone. But this, you throw a smoke grenade down and the enemies are still going to walk up to you in melee and break your block and stagger you out of it. So it has no potential for killing enemies, which is ultimately what you need to be doing. There needs to be something that this thing can bring to the table to make that job easier. All right, so there is all the problems, and I have a real quick solution. All right, so first of all, we're changing the charges on this grenade to 5. The basic fundamentals are like, it's not going to solve enemy encounters on its own because it doesn't offer any damage, and having it have 3 charges is just so crazy with the lack of effect that it has. So we're bumping its charges to 5 because, veteran, it can regenerate a bunch of grenades. This will give you lots of value out of actually picking up a pack. Now, what does it do differently? Well, let's address parts 2 and 3 together. Enemies in this effect in the field are going to be slowed, let's say by 20% or so, and allies in it are going to be hasted by 20%. That means 20% move speed, 20% attack speed, I'm trying to think, action speed, whatever it is. What I'm thinking of is like, how the effect of the pox gas bomber, it hurts you and it buffs their allies. What if these are just, blessed stims that are in this grenade? So the enemies, they're either unable to see through it, so they're moving around slower because they're in armor and helmets, or it affects their lungs and their respiration, so they can't act as quickly. And then all of our allies are boosted by the stims that are infused into this smoke. We're vaping it up, and it keeps us on our toes. So I could see using this as like, an actual way to a combat steroid, right? Everybody gets like a very minor version of a stim that can, push them forward in an engagement and tip the scales, because a lot of times when you're getting overwhelmed by enemies, it's just a matter of, are you putting out as much damage as the AI is sending enemies at you? And this can help tip the scales in your favor. And then 4 is just, the gunners just need to treat this as a wall. By that I mean, when you go behind a wall for a gunner, he doesn't continue to track you behind the wall and shoot the wall. He just stops, right? He just goes, oh, I can't shoot through that, and then he moves forward to get a new position. This needs to just be part of the code of the grenade, so this gunner shooting through it nonsense, I think that's fine. That's like realistically probably what would happen, is you would just suppressing fire the smoke, but it's so useless already, and now we've got the chance that gunners will continue to shoot you through it. It just needs to reliably tell gunners, like, hey, this is not a avenue you can go through. You can either advance through the smoke and start shooting on the other side, or do a flanking maneuver and go some other direction to get your line of sight. But they need to stop like staying where they are and shooting. And then finally, the sound effects. This needs to have like some sort of like, it puffs and shoots out immediately, but that's not how smoke grenades work in real life, right? How smoke grenades work in real life is you have this canister on the ground, and it's, shooting out volumes of gas, and you can see it sitting there going and letting out all this smoke. We should be able to hear, if not see, the grenade on the ground where it was detonated, and you should be able to hear that hissing noise of the gas being released. And when the hissing ends, it lets you know that you have like 5 or 3 seconds or whatever it is, that before the grenade effect is going to end, and you're going to lose your buffs, and you're going to lose the obscuration of your vision. I think all this change together would actually make this something somewhat viable. My main problem will still be this, which is that you would have to make this grenade so obscenely good, it would have to be maybe the new best grenade in the game in order to compete with the fact that Survivalist is over here underneath another very, very good grenade. So a really simple change could be made to just swap these two, or swap any one of these. We need to get Shredder away from Survivalist, because this combination here is just too freaking powerful right now. The best grenade and the best aura, that needs to get busted up in my personal opinion, and that might be one way we could leverage Smoke Grenade and push it farther ahead in the meta. Anyway, y'all, thank you very much for watching. I told you this would be a short one, but there's not too much detail I can get into on the Smoke Grenade. Y'all sort of know what the issues with it are, and probably not a whole lot of y'all using it out there, but I hope that at some point we can see it change. Very clearly when it was put in the game, it was just filler. They just needed a third grenade for the tree, and they're like, here, a smoke. 15-second smoke. Woohoo. But yeah, maybe we can see something more interesting in there in the future, and maybe this idea will get implemented in some form. Alright guys, thanks very much for watching. Mr. E's out.